Hello everyone, thank you for giving me this time. I know that there are many doctors in this meeting, and as a doctor, you have certain distance to keep away from the sick and disease. If I'm here today, it is to break this distance and talk about human being to human being. Because today I represent 26,000 French people and 300,000 people in the world. My name is Koseke Sonalus, and I had a transplant 6 years ago. My own story starts off rather well in Africa. A quiet birth, at least for me. I was a very beautiful baby, calm, playful, finally a normal child. And for my 6 months, a radical change. I no longer sleep at night. I cry all the time. It was impossible to calm me down. There was my first pain crisis. My mother, knowing that she was carrier, decided to have me test. The diagnosis fell rather quickly. Homozygous SS, Sickle Cell Disease. Doctors do not give me more than 3 years of life expectancy. With time, I received a nickname, Akufa Kala. Literally, the person was dead long ago. The living dead. Fortunately for me, I was already stubborn, a real warrior. That's when my favorite game began. Beating the prognosis, at every turn I found myself in intensive care, and the doctors were very pessimistic. And where there was no hope, I proved to them that I was determined to live and to fight this disease. The only solution for me was the transplant in Europe. My parents were ready to try everything to make me here. At the age of 5, I was already well aware of what was at stake and that even if the treatment was easy, I could heal. But as fate would have it had another bad luck, no compatible donor. Neither my brother nor my sister was 100% compatible. As if that wasn't enough, it was impossible for me to go home. I was much too ill. I had to stay in France. I thought that the worst I could experience was the pain crisis and the cold, but I hadn't yet realized that sickle cell anemia was a progressive disease and that I was going to have to deal with many complications, extremely painful vaso-occlusive crises, a stroke that paralyzed me on the left side. I looked like a double-sided person for weeks. I still have after effects from it. And I'm not even talking about gallbladder or chest syndrome. I had all the treatments, hydroxyurea from age of 9 and transfusion after the stroke at 13. I was transfused for 18 years, a real vampire. Erythrophoresis, home oxygen, Desferal infused all night long. We don't live with it, we survive. Physically, psychologically, and socially, it's unbearable. This disease handicaps us in all our projects, study, work, relationships. Waking up in the middle of the night in excruciating pain impacts our whole life, and that's of our loved one. One day, we are fed up. We think of our friends who have died of this disease, and we say to ourselves that we are next. because this disease killed children, teenagers, and adults. After the birth of my daughter, the pain crisis doubled in intensity and frequency. I no longer have a venous line. Six implantable venous access that ended in very serious sepsis. A fistula that only lasted a year. My arteries are out of order and the morphine is no longer effective. We have to switch to ketamine. I'm spending 244 days in hospital in 2011 and 300 days in 2012. And when you spend that much time in the hospital, you realize it has nothing to do with Grey's Anatomy. Sometimes there are happy endings, as in Dr. House, and that's what happened to me. Luckily for me, medicine is advancing, and even though I was beginning to lose hope, medical progress had made me the first patient in Europe to receive an haplo-identical transplant. Have such an opportunity when it was denied to you 20 years ago is a miracle. I was very lucky because my family always support me, and if it was sometimes difficult to understand what I was going through, finally my sister, 60% compatible with me, was able to donate to me after the validation procedure and the late treatment. The transplant itself went well. I had a lot of apprehension because even though I lived my life in the hospital, I didn't know about chemotherapy or radiation or the stereo room. Not being able to take a shower for weeks, not being able to eat everything you want, is nothing compared to the graft versus host disease and the side effect. I was expecting teen hair loss, but the shock was when my daughter saw me and asked me if I had to become a boy. There was a psychological impact. I experienced a real transformation. Luckily, I was able to distract myself by watching Game of Thrones. The day I was told I was cured, it seemed so unreal that I didn't believe it right away, and there was still a long way to go. The post transplant, too, was an ordeal. My body did a reset, and I had to start all over again. Vaccinate, continue to the anti reject drugs. I have never felt as fragile and vulnerable as I did during the first years. In spite of the fatigue, I gradually started to do things I wanted to do again, like learning to swim in the pool without a pain crisis. It was unthinkable. Today, I'm convinced that this transplant was my only chance. And the reason I'm here today is because I do like many people to have this chance. Thank you.